Hello and welcome back to Macabre&Co. And welcome back, Rohan.
Hello, lovely to be back.
Yes, by popular demand, we have a returning guest host.
Mostly my demand. But...
I also want to hear what you've got, and I didn't want to do any research. So, best of both worlds. And make sure while you're here, you give us a little subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Share it with a friend, and we'll get right into it. Rohan, what are we talking about today?
Well, you have no idea what we're going to talk about today, do you?
No idea.
I was a little inspired by one of your recent episodes where you were talking about the deepest places and the Mariana Trench, and I had a wonderful time listening to that episode. Very well done on that.
Thank you. I never stop thinking about how deep the ocean is and what lives down there.
Well, this time we're going to talk about the exact opposite. We're going to talk about some space disasters.
Oh my God, space disasters! George is going to love this.
From the bottom of the ocean into outer space.
Off we go.
So, what is space? Space, it's a near perfect vacuum out there. There's a couple of particles, bits of hydrogen and helium atoms just buzzing around, but very, very, almost a perfect vacuum. Lots of radiation though. So if you're out there without the protection of a space shuttle or a space suit, you get lots of radiation.
Where does the radiation come from? If it's
comes from
near
the
perfect
sun,
vacuum?
comes from the stars. They're always shooting out radiation.
Uh-huh.
So you know our what are they called? The lot of pretty lights on the hat of the world.
Yeah.
The pretty lights.
The stars?
Not the stars. The northern lights, the auroras.
Yes. Okay.
That's radiation hitting our magnetic field and getting scattered.
Right.
So our atmosphere and our iron core produces a magnetic field which protects us from a lot of radiation from the sun. Without which, if we didn't have our magnetic core or our atmosphere, radiation would just wipe life off the planet.
Wow. I don't think I knew that. Okay. Radiation everywhere.
Yeah,
Got it.
space is really scary.
Yeah.
It's extremely hostile. If you were to step out of a spacecraft, or if you were just on the moon without a space suit, you'd be unconscious pretty quickly because there's no oxygen. Your blood and your bodily fluids would start to boil because of the lack of pressure. Do you know that boiling temperature is different at different
altitudes and air pressure, yeah.
Yeah, so I think at the top of Mount Everest it's something like 38 degrees or something silly. I've not got the right number there, but
I haven't fact-checked that.
Significantly low. If you're boiling a kettle at the top of Mount Everest, it's significantly lower temperature than 100 degrees at sea level. So with no pressure whatsoever, all your fluids would just immediately boil, and then they would freeze because there's
no atmosphere.
Very, very little temperature out there. So your tissues, your skin, your heart, your internal organs would all expand because your bodily fluids would be boiling.
And then freezing.
There's extreme temperatures up there in the shade. It might be minus 100 degrees. In the sunlight, it might be plus 100.
Wow.
We're talking Celsius there. If it's Fahrenheit, minus 150 up to plus 250. Lots of radiation, as discussed, and sometimes just little bits of rock whizzing around that have come off something, just fizz, 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 fizz. Which we sometimes see those little bits of rock as they enter Earth's atmosphere, and they go shoop. And we call those shooting stars. Yeah, that's what they are. So there's there are little things flying around out there. There's not absolutely nothing. So anyway, that's not electron space as such. It's not a science episode where you're talking macabre things. So we've got 3 space disasters that we're going to talk about. One is Vladimir Komarov. He was the first person to die in a space mission.
Wow.
So I'll tell you about him.
What an honor to be the first person to die. What year was that?
That was in the year 1967.
67, our first death in space.
Then in 86, we've got the Challenger, so we'll talk about that as well. And then the more recent one, the Columbia, in 2003.
Yes, okay.
So I'll give you just a bit of an overview of each of those and what happened. So first up, Vladimir Komarov. He was the first one to die. He was born in 1927, so he was a teenager. during World War II, left school at 14 because of the war. And, he was in the Soviet Union.
Soviet
That's
Union,
where he's from, which you may have guessed from his name.
That sounded very Soviet.
Very Soviet name, Vladimir Komarov. Age 15, he joined the first Moscow Special Air Force School. At the age of 15.
Wow.
Pretty cool. He did very well, proceeded up the ranks of pilots, studied engineering, excelled at everything, very smart and driven, very well liked, very well respected guy. He became a test pilot and was involved with spacecraft research and development and was very close friends with Yuri Gagarin, who's famous for being the first man into space.
Yes.
In 1967, he's assigned to the Soyuz 11, which is a spacecraft that was designed to dock with the world's first space station. Now, in the development of it, which he was closely involved with, there were lots of problems with the spacecraft, and inspections had revealed a long list, over 200 faults with the spacecraft, which were put in a report that nobody dared pass all the way up to leadership.
No.
Because Soviet Union, a lot of people saw the report, but everyone was too scared to pass it up the chain to
Say,
command,
oh my gosh, there's
because they
something wrong.
figured anyone who said we've got problems would just be fired and sent off to the gulags.
Wow.
So Soviet Union, everyone was too scared to say anything about it.
That is not a culture of receiving feedback.
No, it's not not the kind of company you'd like to work for now.
No, I would not be rating that company on Glassdoor very highly.
So they scheduled it and it's going ahead, and he was scared, but he also knew that if he didn't go, the second choice to pilot that mission was his friend Yuri, and so to protect his friend.
His friend Yuri, who ended up being the first one in space.
Well, his friend had already been the first one in space.
So Yuri's already been, and and our hero.
And it's not his first time in space either. People have been to space, but this is a particular mission.
Oh, okay.
In what they know is a faulty and dangerous spacecraft.
Oh my gosh.
So not only does he insist on going because he doesn't want his friend Yuri to die.
Yeah.
But he also, because he wasn't expecting to make it home, in his funeral arrangements, he insisted that he has to have an open casket. Because his attitude was, if they make me go, then I'm going to make sure everyone sees what happens.
That is a boss move.
And I am going to show you a photo of that shortly as well.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait.
So here he goes. The mission goes very badly. They're losing power. The monitors aren't working. The transmission with the communication with homes, intermittent, cutting out. It's losing communication. He's trying to re-enter Earth's atmosphere. His steering, things are just going wrong.
So he made it out. Now he's
Made it
back.
out.
Out's fine. It's coming back.
Yeah, it's the attempts to come back where things go wrong. His parachutes, which are supposed to slow him down enough to re-enter Earth's atmosphere, they don't deploy.
Oh no.
Among the many things that have gone wrong. And so he just heads into the Earth atmosphere at full speed. The American military, they've got listening posts where they've been listening to his broadcasts, and they hear him crying and cursing and raging as he's coming down. And some of the last things that he said included, "Heat's rising, and they've killed me."
Oh my god.
And so he's in this little shuttle that's blasting through the atmosphere and getting
hurtling towards
extremely hot
space
before crashing into Earth.
Oh my god.
They did recover debris and what they think is his body. And I will show you a picture now. Maybe you could describe this picture.
Oh my gosh. It is a casket. There are some military friends looking around at it very somberly. It just looks like a rock. It looks like a space rock. We'll put this up on Instagram and Patreon, but it looks like a rock. Looks like a molten lava rock. Not a
maybe the leftovers of a big log from a bonfire.
Yeah.
Or something. Yeah, it's grim. It is grim
that
viewing.
Is very macabre.
Very macabre. That's what we're aiming for. Oof. So, it's not going to get cheerier.
Oh, good.
I apologise.
That's what we're here for. That's
the
what
tone
we're
of
for.
that. It's not a cheery one. We're going for macabre, so I'm telling
Yeah.
you what happens to the people
Yes. Okay.
in this episode.
Let's hear about the people.
All right, pop it on to 1986.
Yes.
We are both very young children at this stage.
Mm-hmm.
NASA launches the Challenger space shuttle. It's meant to deploy some satellites and study Halley's Comet. These are the purpose of it. They've got
In Canadian, that's Halley's Comet.
Halley's Comet. What do they call it? Halley's.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Halley's.
Haley.
Halley. There's seven people on board. 6 of them are NASA astronauts. One of them is supposed to be the first civilian in space.
Yeah, wasn't there like a contest or something?
Oh, I'm not sure about the contest.
I thought there was like a nationwide contest,
Probably.
and they could submit why they should be the person to be chosen, and that's why how this person got to go.
There's Krista McAuliffe was a school teacher who was going to go, and she was going to do experiments and teach some classes from space.
Yeah.
Which a bit like what's his name, Commander Chris Hadfield, another Canadian.
Yes.
Who on the International Space Station sent lots of fantastic experiments and broadcasts and interesting things to engage young people with science and space.
Yeah, and I believe, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I could do my own research later, but I think she won a contest amongst like the whole nation. People submitted, and that's why her school class was so excited, and everyone was
that's amazing.
so excited that this school teacher got on.
And they all would have been watching.
Yeah.
They all would have been watching. I think that it wasn't broadcast on television, but anyone watching in real life would have seen what happened. And there were lots of videos of what happened next. So the shuttle takes off. And so there's lots of moving parts, and lots of things that have to be closed off from other things. You've got rocket boosters, and you can't have hot fuel burning in the same bit as other parts of the rocket, of course. So they've got these rubber seals that are supposed to keep some parts separate from other parts. And on that day, there were record low temperatures where they were taking off from. And those rubber seals got very stiff and weren't properly sealing. So they take off. Hot pressurized gases escape the solid rocket booster. And a little after a minute, they've taken off. About 70 seconds later, there's an explosion. But it doesn't just blow up the whole thing. It's not like everyone's dead.
Yeah.
What happens is it blows off some of the rocket boosters, which throws it off course. So it starts spinning a bit. And because it's going, at this stage, it's going twice the speed of sound.
Oh my gosh.
So it's going so fast. And so once it goes off its course,
really?
it's shaking around and spinning. So it just breaks up into pieces. And all the pieces then just come down. Now, that leaves the crew compartment 14 kilometers to fall into the ocean. There's no escape mechanism. There's no parachutes. There's no escape from this situation, and they don't know if any of them were alive for that part. If they were lucky, they would have died during the initial get shaken up part. But if they were alive for that, that's a long fall.
It's a long fall.
A long fall, and then you hit the ocean. No one's surviving that.
Not.
They did find their bodies.
Yeah.
They recovered them from the ocean floor after.
Wow! So they
about
found
3
all of
months.
them.
Yeah, they went
3
did a
months.
huge mission to try and find all the bits of debris and
to figure out what happened as well. They would have had to do an inquest, and
there was, of course, always a lot of investigating what went wrong, and finding out whose fault it is and things like that. One of the really terrible things about that one is some engineers had identified the problem with the rubber seals and had informed NASA, we think this is a problem, and they decided to go ahead anyway.
I mean, at least they felt like they could give the feedback, because
yes,
the Soviets did not feel like they could give the feedback.
Yeah, which do you think is more tragic? If they give the feedback and it's ignored, or if they're too scared to give the feedback at all?
I think it's more tragic if they're scared to give the feedback, at least if you've given the feedback, because if you've given that feedback and somebody else hasn't listened, then that's off of your chest. But if the Soviet scientists would forever be like, could have stopped it. You would think that you could stop it.
Perhaps, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you make a good point there. At least you can assume NASA didn't want that to happen, that the feedback was given and somebody just assessed it and didn't think it was a problem.
Right, and if their feedback was like, these seals won't last in low temperatures, and they were like, it's Florida, we're never going to get to that temperature, and then surprise, they got to that temperature, there's probably nothing they could do at that stage. Like, we're going to launch, and it's, 5 degrees Celsius.
Yeah. Yeah, so -3, I think.
-3.
Nobody
from
freezing.
Florida.
It was freezing.
If these scientists told NASA it's got to be -3 in Florida for this not to work, they would have been like, meh, it's never going to happen.
So that's the Challenger, really horrible, and of course the class, all the kids in that class would have been watching, and a lot of people have seen the video. It's very easy to find. Really horrendous thing to happen. The next one, I'm not sure if it's better or worse. It has some similarities.
Okay.
In 2003, which seems very recent.
It really does.
The Space Shuttle Columbia took off. They were just doing research. A 7-person crew.
All scientists?
Astronauts and scientists. During launch, a piece of insulating foam broke off.
From where?
From the outside of their shuttle.
Oh, okay.
Just broke off, got shaken off, broke off.
A lot of things must get shaken off, like for the pressure it takes to launch one of those. They must
amount
build
of vibrations and shaking
They must account for a certain amount of shake, rattle, and rolling things to come.
Yeah, they must account for lots of it, but sometimes you've got to have learning experiences.
Oh no!
So they did try and assess this. So it's during re-entry that the problems happen with this one. It's not takeoff. They go up and they do some business.
Everything's fine. Space.
Space. Exactly. And then it's on re-entry that these guys have problems. So they get out into space, but they've had that problem on the way up, and they've got no means of fixing it. So they figured they've just got to try and get back anyway.
Yeah.
Even if they assessed it and decided this is a problem that we can't re-enter with, there's nothing they can do about it. So.
Oh yeah, because you're there. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, what are you gonna do exactly? You've just got to
hope for the best.
That's what they do. So they attempt re-entry. So as you return, as we discussed with shooting stars, you are coming in, you're going too fast. If you're a rock, you're going too fast, you're hitting particles, causes heat, friction causes heat, and you just burn up into nothing. That's what happens to shooting stars. So when you are a person in a craft that's coming in, you need to have insulation to protect you from the heat.
Right.
And then you've got to have things to slow you down, like like Vladimir needed to have his parachutes.
Yeah.
To slow him down. So these guys, they start re-entering at Mach 23.
How fast is that?
Mach 23 is 23 times the speed of sound. The speed of sound, which is something like 700 or 800 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
So 23 times that. So very, very, very fast.
That's so fast. We're not supposed to go that fast. Human bodies are not meant to travel that fast.
Yes, that's right. So they've got a gap in their insulation and heat is coming in, and the heat coming in starts melting the aluminium construct of the craft they're in. So they are slowing down because they're going through the atmosphere. They slow down to about Mach 15 times the speed of sound.
Just Mach 15, don't worry about it.
Just a little stroll through the atmosphere at Mach 15. And then it starts to break apart. So that's what happens. Heat gets in, melts bits of it, throws them off their path. So they start to spin, and spinning through the atmosphere at that speed.
We learned that's a bad plan.
Yeah, they've got an aerodynamic way they can come in, And if you get thrown off that, going sideways or spinning,
No.
it just falls to pieces. So 7 crew members, all of them are killed, not necessarily from the deceleration, but from depressurization. So as it falls apart, so still, even though there's enough atmosphere to cause all that heat, it's not enough for us to breathe in or live in. You're still very high in the atmosphere. But the depressurization happened so fast. None of them had closed their visors. One of them wasn't even wearing a helmet. So they could have been protected a little bit inside their helmets.
But would that have even helped?
Not for very long.
Yeah.
So it may have made things worse. In fact, that's in this case, the best we can hope
Is that it was fast.
is that the depressurization knocked them unconscious in seconds. If that wasn't the case, if they survived the depressurization, they would have suffered.
Boiling blood, right?
No. That's if you're in outer space.
Oh, okay.
They would have had significant trauma from the rotation on all 3 axes. So they're spinning in all directions while only wearing lap belts. And these are not the kind of helmets like a motorbike helmet where it's fitted to your head. They're loose ones. So their heads would have been bopping around inside there.
And you're spinning.
So a lot of body trauma, a lot of head trauma. If they'd managed to brace themselves and avoid all of that, they would have been burned by hot gas entering the broken crew module. Wind blasts at that speed stripped their spacesuits of their bodies.
Wow.
How fast and how violent it was in there. Their remains were exposed to hot gas and molten metal as they separated from the disintegrating craft.
Right.
And this is while they're still so high in the air. So then they come down.
If it's ripping their spacesuits off, then it's also going to rip their flesh.
Yeah, you can only imagine the state.
Yeah.
They must have been in by the time they landed. This happened above Texas, and debris landed all the way from East Texas to southern Louisiana, where bits of their spacecraft and presumably bits of the crew as well, which is horrendous.
Oh my gosh. You were right. This only got more grim.
Yes. I'm sorry.
No, this is what we came for. We're here for this.
Some people tried to sell pieces of the Columbia debris on eBay.
Of course they did.
Which, of course, it's government property. It's part of an investigation. You can't just pick it up and sell it on eBay. Yes. So they held an amnesty. Said you've got 4 days to hand in any bits of the Columbia spacecraft you've got. And while they were doing that, people handed in parts of the Challenger that they'd been hanging on to.
Parts of the Challenger.
Parts of the Challenger.
From 86.
Yeah.
They've handed in 2003. Oh, sorry, I kept this for a minute too long.
Yeah, I just had this in my cupboard. Bought it off eBay in 1986. There was no eBay. Gumtree.
Gumtree.
No.
Come on, Craigslist.
No internet. They bought it from an ad in the paper.
Yeah, from a guy on a street corner with a trench coat. Want to buy some space junk?
Genuine Challenger.
Yeah.
Debris. Ugh. It's grim, isn't it?
Very grim.
So that's all I've got on the. I figured they were the 3.
Yeah. Wow.
Really good space disasters to talk about.
Those are incredible space disasters. Okay, if you have to be in one disaster, either one of those 3 disasters or the submarine that recently disappeared with all of the rich people in it, which disaster would you be in?
I choose the submarine for 2 reasons. One, compared to all of these, that would have been so quick. I think it would have been, is that a lights out?
Yeah.
By the time you had any sense that there was an issue, I think you no longer have any sense of anything. Also, if you were in the submarine, you probably lived a pretty good life as a billionaire already.
That's so true. I also think submarine, not necessarily because of the quickness, but I think we have a lot of images from space. There's a lot of things coming back from the satellites that we can see what space looks like, but the depths of the ocean are still such a mystery. And I want to see what they saw and die with that knowledge. I want to go with whoa, look at that crazy 25-legged.
If I had to choose of those ones, I think I'd have to go with the Columbia.
Yeah, because you get to do your mission. Yeah. You're out there, you've done it, and then coming back sounds like
Challenger.
so
They didn't even get up.
Yeah.
Didn't even get into space.
Challenger, you're just so excited, off we go, and then off you went.
And old Vladimir Komarov's,
It sounds so
the whole
traumatizing.
time he was expecting to die. So that sounds like a terrible one to be in.
Yeah, he was expecting to die, and they have the recordings of him like realizing he's gonna die and knowing he's not okay and crying and being sad. Whereas you're right, the Columbia, it does sound like you best of both worlds. You get to go, you do your mission, you probably think everything's okay until suddenly you don't, and then it was very fast.
Oh, one little detail of Vladimir's that I forgot to mention.
Oh no.
And this is so sad, but because he was in communication with Moscow saying everything's going wrong here, that part of his communication was him discussing with his wife how to tell the children what had happened. So that was a conversation that he had while he was alive.
He knew enough in advance that he could be like, call my wife, we need to have a discussion.
Yeah, he knew when he took off that he probably almost certainly wasn't coming back.
But there's a different sense of urgency between being like, I'm pretty sure this isn't go well, and then like
this is happening
calling
now.
your wife to be like, I am actively expiring.
Yes. I thought maybe a fun way to finish off this episode, because it's been a pretty grim,
very grim,
really macabre, horrible discussions of how some people died in the pursuit of science and advancement of humankind. Do you believe in aliens? Do you think
yes,
that there are
absolutely,
aliens out
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's foolish to assume that we're the only creatures in the universe.
Do you think we would ever meet them?
That one's harder. I think I think we have met them. They've been here. They're here the whole time. That some people have met them. Which, again, in 2020 when they released some of that information, I think that is closer to the truth. Or I think they're too advanced. They're in another system. They're too far ahead of us to come back to see what we're up to. What do you think?
I forget whose quote it is. Something along the lines of, I don't know if we're alone in the universe or if we're not. And I don't know which thought is more amazing. And I veer from side to side. I'm not sure. I think if there are aliens, it's extremely unlikely we would ever meet them for a couple of reasons. One is that the chances of us being at a matched up level of technology where they will send a message that we can receive or vice versa, when you consider all the years we've been incapable of sending a message, we've been able to for, say, 100 years, and there'll be a time when we are no longer capable of sending messages to space.
Yeah.
Which is a grim thought. But let's say that period, optimistically, it's 500 years. For 500 years, in all of the 6 billion years of Earth, we have the opportunity to send a message. It seems like such a tiny window of us being able to send a message and someone receive a message. Also, the distances are so great.
So that's the thing.
So great.
And for any other aliens to travel far enough to meet us, because at this stage we've not gone far enough to meet them, they would have to be so advanced. I think they might be too advanced.
Which leads to another quandary. And it was Neil deGrasse Tyson who put...
Our Lord and Savior,
who put this in a way that I thought was very relatable and very frightening. It's that an alien civilization that could make it to Earth would be so far advanced above us that they would see us like we see ants.
Yeah.
And do we think, as we're walking along, do we stop and think about an ant if we squash one? Or if there's an ant that's in our kitchen, do we think for a moment about putting out some ant bait?
Nope, we definitely do it. Did it last week.
Killing them all. So how would they assess our planet and decide what to do with us? Would they say, and we wouldn't stop and say hello? Well,
or
I should rephrase. Most people wouldn't stop and say hello and have a chat with an ant.
Or are they just passing by? Like, how many anthills do you know exist that you're just passing by? Like, are aliens just like, Earth, another human colony, and they just go right by us?
Yeah, could be. We might be boring to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they might just be looping past and like, hey Dad, what's that? Just another human colony. Okay. And like off they go. You know? And,
Just another human colony.
yeah.
Just like the one on Mars.
Yeah. You know, ant colony, human colony. So, but then I think maybe for a future episode, I want to have a look at all of the documents that were unleashed. Why do I want to say unleashed? Unrestricted. What happened when they? The restricted files that they like opened. Declassified. Because apparently there's a lot of alien confirmation in there and alien contact details that I feel like I did do a brief read into in 2020, but 2020 was a wild time and the Earth was weird enough without aliens. So I think
I'm a skeptic of all alien contact. I think there's probably a bunch of radiation and various things flying around the universe that our instruments might interpret as being some vague data. But actual alien encounters have a strange habit of usually appearing in the US, in particular parts of the US.
That's not true at all. There's some from Brazil. There's some from Africa. There's a bunch of alien sightings and encounters that are from different parts of the world.
Maybe you could do an episode.
I would love
enlighten me on that.
to do an episode and try to change your mind.
Yeah, I'm thinking of where is it? Where did we go where they had the big alien sign?
Oh, Nevada.
Nevada, yeah.
Yeah, by near Area 51. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, Area 51 though is allegedly the site of a lot of alien, where they like kept them, alien storage encounters. But over the desert, yeah, there's the desert. There's so many stars. You see a lot of things. That could be said as well for Australia. Like I'm sure there's lots of Australian alien sightings because there's a lot of wide open space out here.
I feel like you're just at the start of inventing a new tongue twister there. The Australian alien. The Australian. Take us to you later.
Oh no.
G'day, we're aliens.
Yeah. But the aliens are just trying to fit in. It's got one of those hats with the corks on it.
G'day, alien. I found a really sweet quote on Reddit.
Okay.
That I thought was a lovely little thing about space. Well, not necessarily lovely, but I thought this might be a nice thought to finish on.
Okay.
Tell me what you think of this one. Instead of looking up into the sky, you are actually gazing down into the infinite cosmic abyss with only gravity holding you to the surface of the Earth.
Whoa.
Isn't that frightening? It makes you want to hold on to something.
That is frightening and I'm so into it. Yes. Now I'm not going to look up at the sky. I'm going to look down into the vast chasm of nothingness that is the universe.
Into which we would fall if not for gravity. Thank you so much.
I'm so grateful for gravity.
I'm glad Newton invented it.
Yeah, it was really nice of him. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. All right, any closing thoughts?
That was the closing thought.
That's a fantastic episode. I hope you all are just as terrified as I am. And I am absolutely going to start researching aliens to try to convince you of alien life and contact. So look forward to that, friends. Thank you for joining us again. Everyone give Rohan some nice 5 stars on this episode and on the podcast so that he comes back again. And follow us everywhere there's socials at Macabre&Co. If you are so inclined, please join us on the Patreon at Macabre&Co. We do some fun things over there, some debriefs, some vlogs. It's always a party in the Patreon. And until next time...
Oh, it's me. Stay spooky.
Stay spooky, friends. Bye.
Thanks for having me.